Morning, Thursday, July 15th. And on Tuesday, Joe Biden gave a speech. He said, I'm not telling this to you to alarm you. I'm saying this because you should be alarmed. You should be worried. That's my words. He said it doesn't have to be this way. We have the means. We just need the will. The will to save and strengthen our democracy. Now, those are strong words. He is pointing out to this nation the division, the divisiveness that is going on in this country. This nation that we are going to face another test in 2022. A test of our American democracy in the upcoming midterm elections. And right now, the U.S. needs to prepare to face the new wave of unprecedented voter suppression and the raw and sustained election subversion. He's taking aim at 20-some-odd states that changed the rules and tightened everything up so it would be very difficult for certain groups of people in those states to vote. He's taking it head on. He wants, and he knows this nation needs this Voting Rights Act, the For the People Act. He knows we need that Voting Rights Act in order to continue to be a great democracy. When we look at ourselves and look at the truth, we must recognize that we are no longer the greatest democracy in the world. That there are many out there that still believe we are a great democracy. And then there are many out there that falsely believe that changing the voting rules and regulations will continue to make us a great democracy or keep us a great democracy. But that's wrong. Voter suppression is wrong. You can never stop the American people from voting. That is a great sin, one of the greatest sins. It's the American people that have to decide and have to have the power to do what's right. We did it in 2020, and we need to do it again in 2022, he said. 2020, we had the largest voter turnout of all time in this country. This country is a flawed democracy because of the percentage of people who do not vote. It's a shanda that only 55 to 60% of the people in this country who are eligible to vote do vote. And that is one of the reasons why we rank 25th in the world democracies. Because the nations in front of us get a 90 and 95% turnout at their elections. So if you want to believe we are the greatest, you'll have to settle for being the greatest number 25 that there ever was. And if that satisfies you, then that's okay with me. But you're only kidding yourself because we're number 25 for a reason. And so what do we do to correct that? We create rules and regulations now to keep people from voting. Is that what we want the world to see? Is that what we, the people in this country, want to be? A suppressed nation? No. That is not what we should be doing. And Joe made all those points. He pitched very hard for the Voting Rights Act, the For the People Act. And he knows this nation needs something like that because of all the chicanery that is going on now with the voting rights in all of those states that are trying to suppress people. He stood up there and he called out the big lie too. He said, the big lie is just that, a big lie. Because the 2020 election was the most scrutinized election of all time, probably. And there was no evidence that anything major wrong happened during that election. And why was this election scrutinized? Because Donald Trump started 6 months before the election to claim it was going to be rigged. And we got to watch out. He can't lose because it's going to be a rigged election. Well, this election was watched most closely by everybody. And challenge after challenge failed. And what's even worse is that many of the rules that they're trying to change involved the secretaries of state who stood by, even though they were Republicans, and said this was an honest election. There was no fraud in this election. So what happened? Challenge after challenge. Local and state officials, state legislatures, states and federal courts, all kinds of craziness, just to prove that this election was not rigged. If you want to talk about greatness, the greatness came when the people finally spoke up, when we got 150 million people to vote in the middle of a pandemic, and the vote was fair, and the vote was true, and all the recounts in the world are not going to change that. But there are many in the Trump universe who are still clinging to the idea of the big lie, that the election was rigged and somehow Trump won this election. But they have recounts going, and recounts, and recounts, and Arizona has recounted 3 times already, and nothing fraudulent has been found. And I hope to hell we are not paying for that the United States people are not paying for these ridiculous recounts. Those recounts should come out of the pockets of the politicians that are trying to twist us, hiring bogus recounting firms. It's ridiculous. Instead of worrying about the wildfires in California and climate change, we're worried about voting. We're changing all the rules. How about changing some of the rules that save people's lives? Pay attention to climate control. Understand how badly this country is divided and do something about that. Not change the voting rules so we even become more divided. Anyhow, I think I'm done for today. So I will see you in the morning. Bye.